Child number 4, and we drew straws to see who would be the presenter tonight, but I think the real reason I'm here is because I was the first of the siblings to go all the way through Waverly, right? But we all have Waverly degrees, so we're all Waverly. Whoever graduated from Waverly, raise your hand, please. Okay, good. Okay, so we have a lot of Waverly graduates, great. All right, well, we'd like to get the evening started by calling up Father John Klein for our invocation. Father, he's the pastor of St. George's Church.
I went to Fowler High School, not Waverly, so sorry about that. But I've been in Waverly School District now for 16 years.
He's wearing the right color.
That's right. Let us pray. In Matthew 10, verse 8, Jesus said to his disciples, "The gift you have received, give as a gift. The gift you have received, give as a gift." Loving God in heaven, today we gather to honor and thank Phil Marazita on the occasion of the dedication of the Marazita Waverly Community Stadium. For 25 years, Phil gave of his considerable talent, energy, and passion for the benefit of the students and families of the Waverly school system, truly a labor of love. As we honor and thank him, let our greatest tribute to him be our commitment to learn from him. May his life and legacy continue to inspire administrators, teachers, coaches, staff, school board members, and parents to a similar generosity and energy in using their gifts for the benefit of our young people, schools, and communities. May Phil be a role model for the faculty and staff of Waverly and all schools as they dedicate themselves to providing only the best for the students entrusted to their care. May be an inspiration for the students of Waverly as they ponder their futures, that they may be moved to use their gifts for the benefit of others, as Phil so clearly did. May be an inspiration to spouses and parents, given his heartfelt commitment to Eleanor, his children and grandchildren, who in spite of the demands of his work always knew his heart belonged first to them. May his commitment to excellence and his love for young people and all those entrusted to his care move us all to give the gifts we have been given as a gift to those we have the privilege of serving. Again, Jesus said, "The gift you have received, give as a gift." Phil, you have well honored the giver of the considerable gifts that were entrusted to you by your life of service and love. May all of us one day know the joy that is yours, because like you, we came to know the blessing given all who are generous in the service of others. All this we pray in the name of Jesus the Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Klein. Again, St. Gerard, an incredible priest if you haven't been to St. Gerard before. At this point, I would like to call up a very special group of people that are talented and not only good looking but also have beautiful voices. So will all the past members of the Reflections come up, especially Danny, Candy, Ken, and Mo. Come on up to help us lead in the Star Spangled Banner. So would everybody please stand up, get a little bit of energy flowing through our veins, and belt out our national anthem. And while they're coming up here, we're going to give the mic to Danny. So Danny, come on up. Come on, guys. While we're saying this, we want to make a special thank you. This is Mo right here. You have to understand that a lot of us siblings live outside, so Mo is now a new Marazita sibling because we really want to give her a round of applause because she was the one that went to the board on the final presentation and actually gave this presentation to the board when they made a unanimous decision. So we really want to thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the hot bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Go Warriors! How about that? They still have it, right? Yeah. Reflections. Okay, now, next it gives me great pleasure to show you a bit of the presentation that we actually gave to the school board and to the committee that chose that this would be something that came to pass. So, as I'd like to thank our cousin, my niece Katie, who wasn't able to be here tonight, to put this graphic together for my dad. So a big round of applause for our cousin Katie. I think she did a good job on her graphics. Again, this is fruit of a Waverly graduate. She didn't go to Waverly, but it's that genes are there, right? Does anyone know what this is?
Ice cream.
Anyone know? What is it? What is it? What? How do you know that? You're too young. You're not supposed to know that. Have you ever seen one before?
Yes.
Anyway, why am I showing this slide? Why am I showing this slide? Siblings? This was our introduction to football. My dad was a coach. Where were you a coach? Well, Northwell, Farwell, whatever. And we didn't have the budgets for the big washing machines at that time. So what do you do with 7 kids? You put them to work. Anyway, that's. I thought it was just a good way of getting you in the mindset of where we got into football. First through cleanliness, and then in getting dirty. We just thought we'd throw this one in because we like the spirit of this picture, especially for tomorrow as we take on Oregon, right? But anyway, let's get on to the presentation. We have a very happy time, and I want to see lots of smiles out there because anyone, I think, who's had a chance to meet my dad or spend time with my dad can really appreciate what's going on tonight. We're so happy to have the community respond like they have and have him here to be able to enjoy that too. So, you can see a picture from the first year of Waverly, when Waverly's existence, of my dad speaking in front of the same podium I'm standing at right now, in fact, right? He was the assistant principal and athletic director when soon after Waverly got started. So this is all about a man who put most of his professional life into making lives of others better. So as I was thinking about this presentation, I went to the Waverly website, and I was very impressed by this mission statement on the Waverly website. Now look at that and read it to yourself. We all know how to read, but really read the words. Because I saw this as a description of what my dad has been doing for 50 years. And what the teachers, the staff, the teams, the coaches, all the people that go into making those lives of those young people better. This is really in a capsule and on the website if you want to just copy it down. I think a beautiful way to tell you what being a role model is. And I want to use the word role model often because that's what teachers are, that's what priests are, that's what superintendents are. They're people from all over. School board presidents are role models and putting back into our community. So here's the timeline. 50 years of Waverly. How many of you Waverly graduates knew it's our 50th? You all knew that, I hope. Good, 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 good. And this is a good way to start celebrating it as well. So the timeline, 64 to 65. My dad was the football coach at Waverly, assistant principal and athletic director. Switched over to assistant principal and athletic director, always through that, through 65 to 75. And this is when a lot of us were starting in as high school students as well. 75, 78, he was a director of all of the Waverly School athletics. 78, 79, coordinated athletics, the intramurals, and the community services too. So there's a lot of growth in still spreading out his sports programs into the community, K through 12 at that point. And then he finished up his years at Waverly as athletic director and math teacher too. Got back into teaching. Now, his educational degrees, and I think this is really important because a lot of times we talk about athletics, we talk about athletes, but we don't give them the proper credit to what they actually achieved from an academic standpoint. The scholar athlete. You have a great example of a scholar athlete. I can't look at him. Sitting up front. So 1963, notice the cum laude. What does that mean in Latin? One of you kids studying Latin? Cum laude, what does that mean? What does that mean? Cool. Cool. It is. That's how the Latin said cool. That's one of the really cool people. Cum laude, with honors. You notice that with honors. Master's with honors, University of where? Is that right? University of Michigan. Do we get that?
It's spelled wrong.
Who wrote that? On purpose. And then EDS cum laude again, cum laude, really cool, from Michigan State University. Now, of course, my father would not have been able to do this without this other incredible community leader at his side. Understand what it's like to grow up with two teachers that are leaders in their schools, and then being able to spend your summertime with them every summer of your life. Now, I didn't realize how particular that is until you become a parent and you start seeing you don't have as much time as your parents did. We all consider ourselves extremely lucky to have had that time with my folks. And especially with my mom, I think even you have to understand my mom is not exactly a sports fan. Is that fair? Yeah. But she did put up with us and did come to a few games here and there. But especially was there to help us out, kept us fed, and made sure we kept out of trouble. So as you probably understood and heard from us, there are 7 of us. Mary is our tall, so with siblings, will you please raise your hands, siblings, so you can see where we all are. Unfortunately, none of us live in Michigan right now. We hope that will change sometime, but we're all spread out, but we would not miss this event for the world. All 7 of us got our high school graduation certificates out on that football field. So, I also wanted to put that if you add up all the years that we spent at Waverly, there were decades, really, of Marazita contributions to the Waverly machine, let's say, as students, as activity, as participants. And we went out, most of us got degrees at Michigan State and other universities, and then have branched out into professions of our own skills. But I think none of us would have branched out into any of these things had it not been for our parents, and especially the role models that they set for us. So, now there are 18 grandchildren. Well, this is old because that was we wrote this last year, so now there are how many great-grandchildren? 4? 4, yeah, 4 great-grandchildren. You'll see a few of them in a while. So the clan is growing, but we believe to try to pass on as much as we can the knowledge, like the father was mentioning, the knowledge and the learning, the training that we learned with my parents. I love these. These are quotes from the 60s and 70s. So you have to understand, training wasn't what it is like right now. And I love this one. Philip Marazita is the Mahatma of physical fitness in the Waverly area. Is there anyone here that would get up and go play basketball at 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning? Come on, Nick, you did. All of us did, but he invited most of the community. It was a real wonderful way to see business people coming in, taking care of their health, and seeing how good the Waverly schools are. The 6 in the morning, again, these are journalists he would invite. Often the sports journalists would come in and work out or play basketball with us too. So we remember this place very fondly, even outside of the academic environment. He was in charge of the varsity clubs. We used to have things called donkey basketball games, wheelchair basketball games, all sorts of basketball games at the time as events to bring the community into the high school too. So I wanted to point out the recognition outside of Waverly, because a lot of people here know that my dad did tremendous things here at Waverly, but what I also like to underline here is the importance of how much his peers have recognized him around the state. In fact, he was including events all over the Capillary Conference, Cross Trail Soccer League, started Pop Warner Flag Football. He was involved with all of these different teams. In fact, when we did the first major expansion of the Waverly sporting plan, he was in charge of that as well. So this was a very large expansion when we were going from being the first time, 1964, and this was in 1981, yeah, when we actually expanded to. Now, the other leadership to the community, these are just other ways that my dad has taken time to give back to the community. And like I say, I think that's something that even as all of us are reaching our age of saying we want to give back, I look to my dad, I look to my mom and say, how can I make my own community better? And I think that's really what we all have to do in our soul searching. But in 1986 in particular, he was chosen as the State of Michigan Athletic Director of the Year. Again, something chosen by and elected by his peers. Again, in 1987, he was put into the Michigan State Hall of Fame for football coaches as well. So the idea of naming a stadium after my dad, I think, goes right to his heart because it was his number one sport. I think number one. Would you say? Yeah. And it goes back to his days in Niles with all of his brothers and sisters, which we're lucky to have Warren here as well. And there was another family of the Walkers. How many brothers were there? There were 5 Walkers and however many Marazitas, all out playing on the football on the streets as well. Their competitive spirit, their athleticness started on the streets of Niles, Michigan too. But in general, just as a summary to get the evening started, these are the ways I wanted to just show my dad, perhaps in ways you might not have seen him before. Like I say, a role model. I like that scholar athlete. This is a true example of a scholar athlete, someone who is chosen and really led, and I think you'll hear by some of our testimonies tonight and how he's affected their lives as well. He gave 25 years of his professional life here, and I think left an incredible legacy for the Waverly community. We ended the presentation with this photo, which I love because he is the king to us. But this happened to be the night when my brother Danny had become the homecoming king, and someone had to stand in for him because he was in the locker room. They were doing their locker room stuff. So, of course, his twin dad, I don't know how that works in genetics, but his twin math teacher coach as well stood in for him. And it was just a wonderful way to see father and son pass on the tradition. So here are a few congratulations from a few of the grandkids and relatives that weren't able to be here tonight too. So you'll see some faces and perhaps some resemblances of some of the siblings here. This is Nick's family from down in Florida. Oops, excuse me. Let's go back. Oops, I skipped. Oh, there we go. This is Katie, Frank's daughter, who is actually in Spain right now. Can you translate for us, Pablo? What is she saying here?
Oh, it says hi from the Royal Palace in Madrid.
No, that's not what you said today.
Oh.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, she says, I love you, Grandpa, and I'm very proud of you, and I could never ask for a grandpa better, and I'm very excited about your stadium.
Yeah, beautiful. And then in his own words, oops, no, let's see if this works. I'm going to have to do this over here. I think I go like this. Oops, yep. Let's go back. Is that going to go? There we go. Oh no! Well, this is Tommy from Yale. For how many crossword puzzles from New York Times? Very intelligent kid. Anyway, he's saying hello from Yale. This is his sister Sammy from Pittsburgh. Let's see. This is hello Grandpa from Hollywood. Yeah, that's my little Maggie. This is Dan's kids. And of course, this is the new age of the first great grandkids, so I thought this was a cute one. Way to go, great grandpa!
That's great.
In our most recent edition, Hunter. Isn't he cute? So that's from the Marazita family. We can't thank you enough for all of you that are here tonight. It's really means something that you're part of our lives, and you're now officially Marazitas as well. So when you see that Marazita Stadium, you know you take part in watching over my folks, and we can't love you enough and thank you enough for being here tonight. So let's start with our first remarks and welcome from the president of the Waverly School Board, Britt. Would you please come up, Britt Slocum? Thank you.
I'm going to tell you right now, I am just going to be a broken record, so I'm just way short. Because he worked for Waverly for 25 years. He's had 7 children, everyone's a Waverly graduate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You've heard it once. But what I am going to tell you, all right, is that for all of your service, Phil, there is absolutely no way possible to quantify the impact that you've had on the young lives, the community, the teachers, and everyone else in this community. And it's an everlasting effect. So I want to thank you on behalf of the board for that. You've really, really made a difference. Okay? Now, moving right along, Phil, I would love for you to step up here. Eleanor, you're welcome to come up too. Okay, you can stay right there. We have a tribute here from the board, and I'm going to read this aloud. So I will step over here. Well, actually, I'll step right here. So let's get the picture first. Okay. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Waverly Community Schools special tribute to Philip Marazita. Let it be known that Philip Marazita served with distinction for 25 years for the Waverly Community Schools as football coach, teacher, assistant principal, and athletic director. Phil is a Waverly warrior. He is the father of 7 Waverly graduates. He was involved in the development of the facility improvement project for the Waverly athletic facilities. Phil is a respected role model and a community leader. He was named 1986 State of Michigan Athletic Director of the Year, 1987 inductee to the Michigan High School Football Coaches Hall of Fame, and has a lifetime of dedication to athletics and physical fitness. In special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to congratulate and thank Philip Marazita for years of hard work and dedication to the Waverly Community Schools. We, the undersigned members of our Board of Education, on behalf of the school district, hereby rename the Waverly Football Stadium to Marazita Stadium.
Up on YouTube right here.
Let's get a second. I'm sure things will want a good picture.
Snapchat. That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Oh, no problem. Thank you. I just want to say I'm not bailing because I don't want to be here, but I also announced the marching band, so have a great time. I have to go prepare for that. We've got pregame, halftime, game. Thanks a lot.
Okay, now we're going to have remarks by Julio Rivera, professor and Waverly graduate, professor provost at Carthage College. Julio? What class?
I was just about to
Oh,
say.
good.
I believe I was given instructions. I am from the class of 78, and so that you know that I'm sandwiched right between Liz and Vince, so that is actually where I am. You know, when I got wind of this, for me it was just a no-brainer about supporting this and talking about this. There are some things that weren't mentioned, though, in that Mr. Marazita was my driver's ed instructor. And my lovely wife is over there, and I can win any argument in the car about how I'm driving. This is how Mr. Marazita taught me. This is it. But let me just say a few words because unrelated to this, I noticed on Facebook last week there were some teachers out there and some people who were just chatting about teachers that they remember and people that were important in their lives. And you were right on the list, and it was going back and forth. And Vince put up stuff this morning about his dad and about the stadium, and tons of responses. And so one of the things is that the people who aren't here know you and are thinking about you. For me, as someone who is an educator and who works in the field, it is one of the things that you taught me, and I watched you, and I watched a lot of my teachers, but I watched you as well because Vince and Liz are my friends. You taught me to respect every student. You taught me to wait for that moment that comes from them, that they can shine. And that is one thing that I carry from you throughout my career. I will say this, however. I am an academic geographer. Geography is my field. And there is something special about naming a public place. I mean, I talk to my students about how we tie place names and meaning. And it is so fitting that we are naming this place, this stadium, this public place for you. Because all the things that Vince talked about, your wonderful family, your work for 25 years, it is not about family. It is not necessarily about the longevity in your job. It is about how you do those things. And the thousands of students and thousands of athletes that you've touched, that's why this place, being named Philip Marazita Stadium, is so special. And thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you, Julio. Now we're going to have remarks entitled "My Teacher." This is by Kenneth Henderson. Again, we really want to thank Ken because his testimonial also was very much part of our proposal too. So, Ken.
Thank you. So the whole Marazita family spans, the children spans decades. So you really don't have to talk about what year you graduated. All you have to do is say, I fall in between Dan and Candy. So we never do it enough. We rarely and almost never have the occasion to go back in time and say to that teacher who has made a difference in our life, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I was visiting my folks about a year and a half ago, and I was out walking along, or actually I was running. I can verify that because they know I was sweating all over the porch when I made it to their house. And I was walking by Dr. Marazita's house, and I wondered, does he still live there? And I saw this gentleman walking up the driveway. And here I am covered with sweat. And I go up, at that point, I said, Mr. Marazita. And he turns around slowly and he sees me. And I walked up there. And he invited me up to his porch. And I had that chance. I had that chance to tell him that I've thought about him through my life. And the time period that I was there in high school was very tough. High school. It's probably the most stressful time in a child's life. The hormones are raging. And you're entering into an atmosphere where there are teachers that you don't know. There's a whole new group of upperclassmen that you saw before, but now they're different. They're big. They're a lot bigger. And you doubt yourself. And it's no different for me than it was for others. Except for when I came over from the middle school, I failed to get a respectable grade, let's put it that way, in algebra. And so I got to see my classmates move on to a different class. And I went to a different classroom. And that was pretty tough. But I remember being greeted there. I remember being greeted by a gentleman with a warm smile, a wonderful, strong tone to his voice, and a conviction to make sure that I learned what I needed to learn in that class. I remember struggling a bit, but I do remember vividly the first time I got an examination back from him that I had scored a 92. Very few times do we have a chance to go into a situation where you are terrified and you're wondering, am I going to fail again? And you come out of it successful. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that. And lastly, it's my role as an athlete in the high school was not very strong. I dabbled in soccer, played here and there, but I went on to become a player at my Division III school, Alma College, up in just north of Lansing, if you know where that is. But the most important part wasn't the playing, I realized. And what came after that in graduate school, I became a coach where I coached young junior high competitive teams in the Mount Vernon area in Ohio. And it was one of the most marvelous years of my life being able to coach. And that was a different side of the coin that I hadn't seen before, and a remarkable side of the coin, and to be able to contribute to children and the future. And you realize that as a student, you don't think that someday you're going to have responsibilities, and that's going to turn around. And I think that the responsibility that you had, not just guiding me, but the other students that have gone and wandered through Waverly High School has been immense. And although you may know me least of all the people here, I assure you that all of the people all the students that went through there who I represent, if you put all of the different impacts that you've had in their lives and the way they've developed, I'm sure that you would see how wonderful and how important it was to really name this stadium after you. Because you impacted so many of us, not just the athletes, but the students as well, and you impacted me. Thank you very much.
Now you have to understand how many kids don't answer, don't get, how many kids, for those of you who are not Marazita's, how many kids does he have? 7. No, wrong. So when I left for college, they said we don't have enough kids, right? So we looked abroad for our solution. And we had our first exchange student. My brother, I'd like to introduce his remarks on my host dad, but I think we can take away the host anymore anyway, because we consider Pablo our full brother. Pablo?
Well, thank you. I apologize because, as you must know, English is not my language. So I wrote a few words. You might be asking yourself, who is this guy? And why is he standing in front of you? You probably don't know me. And you don't know why I traveled from the other side of the world to be here for this important moment. I was an exchange student at Waverly High School in 1977. It was perhaps the most important and the best year in my life. It was a time for me to learn a second language and a chance to experience a completely different culture. It was a year that changed my life for better and forever. I will never forget Waverly community welcoming me so well, but most of all, I will never forget each one of the American family that opened their arms and hearts to this strange new member. It was Mrs. Marazita's family, my new family, that hosted me so well that 37 years we are still growing a lifetime friendship. Childhood never dies within our souls. It's a place in our memory where we can go back and smell the fresh grass over and over. I still remember those school days, walking from our house through the fresh fields to Waverly, the same fields that later were the home for our first soccer team. I still remember asking Mr. Marazita his support for the unknown new game. We began training little kids. Then we had a coach and a regular team. We played around the state, racing to the top the name of Waverly soccer team. At home, I still remember Mr. Marazita waking me up early each morning to work out at the school corridors before starting classes. He never gave up supporting soccer, and soon it became a varsity sport and found a place among the American sports as well. Things wouldn't have been that way without the continued support from Mr. Marazita. I have come a long way to honor him, and I'm so proud to be here at this moment of recognition. Mr. Marazita, a beloved and simple man, who has shown through his life that we don't need to build huge bridges to become wise and great. He's telling us that success and happiness have to be with the way we are within ourselves more than the way we are seen by others. He's telling us that being a good father, a generous fellow to his community, a teacher, a good teacher, an honest man could be the simplest, but at the same time, the longest and hardest way to become the great man he is. I'm here to say that I'm proud to be your first chosen son. And I'm going to finish with a little quote from a Colombian writer, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who said, "If I knew that today would be the last time I see you, I would hug you tight and pray the Lord to be the keeper of your soul. If I knew that this would be the last time you pass through this door, I would embrace you, kiss you, and call you back for one more. If I knew that this would be the last time I would ever hear your voice, I take hold of each word to be able to hear it over and over again. If I knew this is the last time I see you, I would tell you I love you. And I would just not assume foolishly you know it already." Thank you.
Gracias. Thank you so much, Pablo. Words from the heart. Finally, it gives me great pleasure to ask Warren to come up. Warren, if you make your way up this way. Again, Warren Marazita, another athlete, another person that we've looked up to for a long time, even though I've been taller than him since I was 10. No, you have to understand, Warren started on the Michigan State basketball team. So to know that you have an uncle that has that kind of stamina and that kind of will and really understands sports, he was another tremendous role model through our young years and still is today. Vice president, what were you, assistant principal? Yeah, assistant principal at Brandywine High School. Also athletic director at Brandywine High School, so you see a similarity there too. And I think if you've ever talked to either of them, and if you haven't had a chance, make sure you do tonight too, you'll see lots of family resemblances. He's not a bad hearts player too, but I think I don't know where the queen is going tonight. I'm going to hold the mic for you.
I don't know where you get all your information from. I never started at Michigan State.
You did not start?
I was 12th on a team.
You know hyperbole? Marazitas like to exaggerate a little bit, okay.
So stand corrected. Boys, this is different. Today, Mary, Frank, and the other 5 kids have to take a back seat to their father. I have never seen a family like Phil. The children and grandchildren have excelled in so many areas and have received so many deserving awards. You have probably heard the saying, an acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. This is so true with Phil's family. Phil and Ellie Phil and Ellie's love and guidance with their children over the years have allowed their family to grow to where they have affected not only life here in the United States, but also abroad. So Phil, you deserve this wonderful honor today for the efforts in education and coaching, because you have affected so many lives in such a positive way. I remember one day I got a phone call from Ed Weed, the athletic director at Niles High School. He said, "Warren, we are inducting your brother Phil into the Michigan Coaches Hall of Fame. We are looking for some juicy story to use about him." None of us who spent time with Phil growing up could come up with anything. I said, Ed, you gotta be kidding. Ed replies, I thought so. To this day, I have never remembered anything that Phil did which they could have used to tease him by. Excuse the interruption. I always admired Phil's success in life. When I was athletic director at Brandywine, I could always turn to Phil for some good advice. One of the things he told me was that if I find a good referee, book him up for your games 2 and 3 years in advance. Don't take a chance on having to use referees who you and the coaches wouldn't be pleased with. Phil, you have spent your life putting so much effort in Phil, you have spent your life putting so much effort into supporting educational growth in schools from Farwell to Mount Pleasant Sacred Heart to North Branch to Waverly and then on to Lansing Catholic Central. My wife is still good friends with some of your athletes in football from Sacred Heart. They still love and respect you for the impact which you have had on their lives. That impact was also felt here at Waverly to name this football field after you. It's a great honor. Congratulations to my wonderful brother, Phil.
So teacher, father, brother, friend, I think you all being here, you know how much you mean to us, Daddy. And I think we're going to end up tonight's ceremony because we have to get over to the game, and I want to make sure you have a chance to get something to eat before you go over there too. And also, please stick around and say hello to everybody up here too. My sister Elizabeth, we really want to thank for organizing everything tonight too. Elizabeth. And although Elizabeth is an athlete, somehow she got the final song a little bit mixed up because we're going to stand up and sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So if I can get the reflections up here, we're just going to pretend that meant football, right? A football game. So reflections, come back up. Come back up and let's all stand up and let it all out because this is a happy time. We want to hear the best "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" you've ever sung, okay? We want them to hear you on the other side of the hotel, right? And if you want to, link your arms with the person next to you too, you know? We can even try to go back and forth.
Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, 'cause it's root for the whole team. If they don't win, it's a shame, for it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out of the old ball game. Go
So I want you to know that you're all the first to know that you'll be walking on the Marazita Stadium tonight. So please come to the game if you're able, but please stop up. There is the poster out there if you don't mind signing it before you leave for my dad too. So the game starts at 7 o'clock, so we have a nice hour to get over there. So thank you all again for coming.
Our longtime Waverly Athletic Director, please join Superintendent Urquhart, High School Principal Huff, and members of the Board of Education in welcoming Coach Marazita, his family, and many friends. recognize Coach Marazita and his many contributions, and to kick off our 50-year anniversary, we're excited to announce that Waverly Football Stadium will now bear the coach's name and be called Waverly High School's Marazita Stadium. A fitting tribute to his years of dedication to Waverly Community Schools. The plaque that will be hung near the entrance of the stadium, which is sitting next to Coach Marazita, states, "This stadium was named in recognition of longtime Waverly Community Schools employee Phil Marazita. Phil spent 25 years dedicated to Waverly's athletic program. His legacy centers on contributions in the planning and development of the Waverly Sports Complex. Phil was named Athletic Director of the Year in the state of Michigan in 1986, and was also inducted into the Michigan Football Coaches Hall of Fame in 1987. That is what that plaque will say at the entrance of the football stadiums. At an early reception, Board of Education President Britt Slocum presented Mr. Marazita with a tribute from the Waverly Community Schools, which states, "Let it be known that Philip Marazita served with distinction for 25 years for the Waverly Community Schools as football coach, teacher, assistant principal, and athletic director. Phil is a Waverly warrior." He is the father of 7 Waverly graduates. He was involved in the development of the facility improvement project for the Waverly athletic facilities. Phil is a respected role model and community leader. He was named 1986 State of Michigan Athletic Director of the Year, 1987 inductee to the Michigan High School Football Coaches Hall of Fame, and has a lifetime of dedication to athletics and physical fitness. In special tribute, therefore, this document is signed and dedicated to congratulate and thank Philip Marazita for years of hard work and dedication to the Waverly Community Schools. We, the undersigned members of the Board of Education, on behalf of the school district, hereby rename the Waverly Football Stadium Marazita Stadium.